All right, Psalms 132. This one is a little bit of an interesting one. It's a little longer than the last several that we've had. This one, I think, it doesn't say in here for sure who is the author of this one, but I really think there's a good chance this is Solomon, or even somebody who's descended from King Solomon in that royal line. Talking about this is really getting into some of the ancient prophecies that King David mentioned and discussed. So you have to go back into the Old Testament more to in the history books, Kings and Chronicles and Judges and them to get this from the history books there. But that's what this is talking about. It's kind of looking back on the things that King David has given Israel, some of the prophecies and opportunities. So we'll learn about this. And again, part of those reiterating those prophecies of Christ who will come in the future from the Old Testament perspective, basically. So let's jump in. Verse 1 Lord, remember David and all his afflictions. So again, this isn't David saying, Lord, remember me. He's not referring to himself in the third person. This is somebody else saying, remember King David and what he has done. Verse 2 How he sware unto the Lord and vowed unto the mighty God of Jacob. Surely I will not come into the tabernacle of my house, nor go up into my bed. I will not give sleep to mine eyes, or slumber to mine eyelids, until I find out a place for the Lord and habitation for the mighty God of Jacob. So this is most likely the person quoting King David, saying that David won't rest until he can establish a temple to God, basically a permanent resting place for God. Now remember, at this time, that Israel was not nomadic anymore. They had inhabited the land of Canaan, kicked most of the people out. The tent tabernacle that Moses had put in place was there. It just wasn't being used very well. And so a lot of Israel had kind of gone away from a lot of temple use. David really wanted to have a permanent temple for God. He really wanted to put this forward. Of course, we know in history he did not get that chance. God said, no, your son will do it, but not you, basically, because you're too warlike. You shed too much blood. You've done too much. So we got to be careful with that, because I think that's a good lesson for us, that even though it sounds amazing in today's society to hate people, to fight, to defend yourselves by killing other people, that attitude of not liking others, that the kind of the Master Mahan principle, if you will, that's in there, uh, can cause us to be disqualified for special spiritual blessings. So you have to ask yourself, do I want a special spiritual blessing more than I want the ability to defend and fight? Or do I want a special blessing more? So, or vice versa. So look at those things and consider that in your life. It's not bad to learn how to defend yourself and how to handle situations, but is it really completely necessary to understand as well? I mean, there's a good point in there. There's a good discussion in there. So let's jump forward here. So this is them quoting the author of the Psalms, quoting King David, basically. He says in verse 6, Lo, we heard it at Ephrathah. We found it in the fields of the wood. Now, in the New Revised Version, the fields of Jaar is what's talking about, rather than just the fields of the wood. So this is a forest, of course. These are places that they're going, and they're hearing these ideas of wanting a temple. Could be part of Asherah was worshipped in the woods, the fertility god, female fertility god, in the trees. Up on the hills were the idols to Baal and others. So people want religion. They want a way to commune with God. It could be what that's talking about in there, basically. Verse 7, we will go into his tabernacles. We will worship at his footstool. Arise, O Lord, into thy rest, thou and the ark of thy strength. That's the ark of the covenant. Verse 9, let thy priests be clothed with righteousness, and let thy saints shout for joy. For thy servant David's sake, turn not away the face of thine anointed. This is not King David speaking these last several verses, but the author saying, please God, bless these efforts, bless the temple, bless this opportunity for us to come and worship you. Verse 11, the Lord hath sworn in truth unto David, he will not turn from it. Of the fruit of thy body will I set upon thy throne. So he's saying that David, his kingdom was established forever. And so his lineage will stay king of Israel, basically. Verse 12, if thy children will keep my covenant and my testimony that I shall teach them, their children shall also sit upon thy throne forevermore. So that is a future blessing that David was given, that if his children were righteous, they would continue to inhabit the throne. That did not happen. We can see that in the history books. That did not happen, unfortunately. And so there were problems later on because of that. The line was never broken. They just didn't inhabit the throne. Verse 13, for the Lord hath chosen Zion. He hath desired it for his habitation. This is my rest forever. Here will I dwell, for I have desired it. I will abundantly bless her provision. I will satisfy her poor with bread. I will also clothe her priests with salvation, and her saints shall shout aloud for joy. There will I make the horn of David to bud. I have ordained a lamp for mine anointed. So this is God speaking, basically. So we have the person starting off, remember David, then quoting David, and then talking about the things of David and some of those prophecies. And now it's the Lord talking to the people, talking to us, saying that he will take care of those who are worthy to be in Zion, to be at the temple. The horn of David, of course, to bud. So the horn is usually a symbol of power. So the symbol of David's power will falter, but a bud will appear. This is getting into reference to the Savior, that there will be the kingdom of Israel will come back, and David's lineage will be the king of it. Jesus Christ is the king of Israel, literally and figuratively. Verse 18, his enemies will I clothe with shame, but upon himself shall his crown flourish. So again, talking about this descendancy of Jesus from King David and how he will take over at some point. Basically, the second coming is where that's getting into. So some fun things we get to learn in 132. Look forward to seeing you in the next one.